Number 7, 1972 AMC Javelin AMX. The 1972 AMC Javelin AMX is often considered the ugly duckling of the muscle car world, and for good reason. Designed by Richard Teague, this car was an ambitious attempt to blend sporty aesthetics with muscle car performance, but it ended up looking like a confused teenager trying on too many styles at once. The front end, with its bulbous nose and awkwardly placed headlights, resembles a face that just can't decide whether it's smiling or frowning. It's as if the designers were aiming for sleek and ended up with a face only a mother could love. The Javelin's proportions are another talking point. At first glance, it seems to be suffering from an identity crisis, part pony car, part family sedan. The rear end is particularly unfortunate, with a design that could best be described as, let's slap on some taillights and call it a day. It's almost as if AMC decided to throw in the towel on aesthetics and focus solely on performance, which, ironically, is what many enthusiasts appreciate about muscle cars. But let's not be too harsh. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Some aficionados adore its quirky charm, seeing it as a refreshing alternative to the more polished Mustangs and Camaros of its time. After all, who doesn't enjoy an underdog story? Number 6, 1970 Plymouth Barracuda. The 1970 Plymouth Barracuda is a classic example of how muscle cars can sometimes miss the mark in the looks department. While it aimed to embody power and performance, it ended up looking like a confused fish out of water, or perhaps a fish that swam into a wall. The design features an awkwardly long hood that seems to stretch on forever, paired with a rear end that tapers down like it's trying to escape from its own identity. The headlights, round and shrouded, give off a vibe of uncertainty, as if they can't quite decide whether they want to be aggressive or friendly. Inside, the Barracuda doesn't fare much better. The seats are about as comfortable as a park bench, and the long doors are a logistical nightmare in tight parking spots. It's almost as if the engineers were trying to create a vehicle that could double as a gym workout. Good luck getting in and out without performing acrobatics. And let's not forget the interior design choices that seem to have been inspired by a 1970s living room, complete with questionable color palettes that could make anyone question their life choices. Overall, while the Barracuda holds a certain charm for muscle car aficionados, its aesthetic shortcomings are hard to ignore. It struts around like it owns the road, but deep down, it knows it might just be the ugly duckling of the muscle car world. Number 5, 1971 Pontiac GTO. The 1971 Pontiac GTO, often dubbed the GOAT, is a classic example of how a muscle car can go from roaring beauty to an awkward duckling. By the time the early 70s rolled around, the GTO had undergone a transformation that left many enthusiasts scratching their heads, and not in a good way. Gone were the sleek lines and aggressive stance that defined its predecessors. Instead, the 71 model sported a front end that resembled a confused fish, with round headlights awkwardly shrouded and a grille that looked like it was trying too hard to be something it wasn't. The body shape didn't help either. With its lazy, sloping rear deck and oddly shaped quarter windows, the GTO seemed to have lost its identity somewhere between the design studio and the assembly line. It was as if someone had taken a beautiful sports car and decided to give it a makeover with a blindfold on. The result? A car that could easily be mistaken for a family sedan on its worst day. The once proud muscle car lineage was reduced to a sad whisper of its former self, with sales plummeting to just over 4,800 units, a clear indication that even die-hard fans were turning their backs. Number 4, 1972 Buick Skylark. The 1972 Buick Skylark has earned its place in the pantheon of ugly muscle cars, and it wears that badge with a certain pride. Imagine a car that looks like it was designed during a particularly uninspired lunch break. The Skylark's awkward lines and mismatched proportions make it a prime candidate for the "What Were They Thinking?" award. The front grille, an unfortunate marriage of wedge shapes and economy car aesthetics, seems to scream for help while simultaneously trying to blend in with its more attractive cousins. It's almost as if Buick decided to throw a party and forgot to invite style. The Skylark's body molding is another chapter in this tale of automotive misfortune. The lower body trim, which some might call creative, looks more like an afterthought than an intentional design choice. It's as if the designers were trying to dress up a potato and ended up with a lumpy mess instead. Under the exterior, the Skylark may have had some muscle, but its looks certainly didn't match its potential. While other muscle cars were flexing their powerful engines and sleek designs, the Skylark was more like the kid in gym class who could run fast but chose to wear glasses and braces. While some may find charm in its quirky design, most will agree that it's best left in the past, preferably parked far away from any car shows. Number 3. 1970 Chevrolet Nova. The 1970 Chevrolet Nova is often described as an ugly muscle car, and it's not hard to see why. With its awkward proportions and uninspired design, the Nova seems to have taken a wrong turn at the styling department. The front end, featuring a grille that looks like it was borrowed from a budget appliance, is topped off with headlights that could easily be mistaken for sad, droopy eyes. It's as if the designers were trying to channel a sense of aggression but ended up with something that resembles a confused potato. Moving along to the side profile, one can't help but notice the quarter windows that seem to have been tacked on as an afterthought. They're shaped like they're trying to escape from the rest of the car, which only adds to the overall awkwardness. And let's not forget about the rear end, where the sloping deck lid meets the body with all the finesse of a clumsy toddler trying to ride a bike for the first time. The whole package screams I'm here, but I'd rather not be. Underneath that questionable exterior, the Nova was supposed to be a muscle car, but it often felt more like a midlife crisis on wheels. Sure, it had power options, but when you look this unappealing, who cares if you can go fast? It's like putting a racing stripe on a minivan, it just doesn't work. Overall, while some may argue that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, the 1970 Chevrolet Nova might just be one of those rare cases where even your most forgiving friends would struggle to find anything redeeming. Number 2. 1972 Oldsmobile 442. The 1972 Oldsmobile 442 is often regarded as an unfortunate chapter in the muscle car saga, and for good reason. Gone are the sleek lines and aggressive stances that defined its predecessors. Instead, the 442 of this era looks like it got lost on its way to a family reunion. With a design that seems to have been inspired by a potato rather than a performance vehicle, it sports awkward proportions and an uninspired silhouette that would make even the most optimistic car enthusiast cringe. One of the most glaring issues is the rear end, which tapers off in a manner reminiscent of a sad dog's tail. The elongated quarter windows and sloping roofline create an odd visual that screams, "I'm just here for the ride." The front end isn't much better, with headlights that look like they're trying to hide from the embarrassment of being attached to such a vehicle. Under the exterior, the 442 was no powerhouse either. With horsepower ratings dropping significantly due to new emission standards, it became more of a gentle giant than a roaring beast. The once mighty V8 engine had been tamed into submission, leaving drivers longing for the raw power that made muscle cars legendary. Overall, the 1972 Oldsmobile 442 is a reminder of how quickly glory can fade in the automotive world. It stands as a testament to an era where style took a backseat to regulations, leaving behind a car that's more of an eyesore than an icon. Number 1. 1979 Ford Pinto. The 1979 Ford Pinto is often heralded as a classic example of automotive misadventure, and calling it an ugly muscle car is like calling a cat a dog. It just doesn't fit. With its awkward proportions and uninspired design, the Pinto looks like it was assembled from leftover parts after a particularly uninspired game of automotive Tetris. Its bulbous body and flat lines give off a vibe that screams, "I'm just here for the gas mileage," rather than any semblance of muscle or speed. Under the exterior, the Pinto was as disappointing as its exterior. Sporting a mere 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, it offered about as much horsepower as a lawnmower. In an era when muscle cars were supposed to roar down the highway, the Pinto instead wheezed along like it was on its last legs. It's no wonder that enthusiasts scoffed at the idea of this subcompact being part of the muscle car lineage. It was more suited for grocery runs than drag races. In summary, the 1979 Ford Pinto stands as a testament to what happens when good intentions meet poor execution. It's an automotive curiosity that leaves you scratching your head and wondering how something so unremarkable ever made it onto the roads. And with this, we have reached the end of this video. If you found it helpful, then make sure to like it and subscribe the channel for future upcoming videos.